Ever get that feeling? Like you've been studying English forever.
Yeah.
Textbooks piled up, Duolingo's your best friend, but then you try to have a real conversation and nothing. It's like your brain knows the words, but your mouth's got stage fright.
Oh, yeah, totally. It's way more common than you think. People put in the time, they learn the rules, but then that confidence to actually speak just isn't there. It's a real head scratcher.
Right. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're not going to be like, just study harder, because we've been looking at some really interesting stuff, and it turns out there's a different approach. We've got some clips from Beyond the Mic, that podcast, and then this awesome YouTube one, Talk Like Professionals. The big takeaway, if you want to be fluent in English, it's not about cramming in more knowledge first. You got to start speaking right away. Kind of throws you off, doesn't it?
It really does. I mean, it feels natural to want to be ready before you open your mouth, right? Like, build up this huge vocabulary, master all the grammar.
You would think so. But these guys are saying speaking is how you build that foundation. So today, we're going to give you some actual steps, things you can do right now to move from just learning English to actually using it, and hopefully start feeling more confident about speaking up. So they talk about this learning trap, which I think a lot of people fall into. It's like you're collecting all these resources, apps, workbooks, flashcards, but then when you need to speak, you just freeze. Sound familiar?
It's like you've got this amazing toolbox, but you're too scared to build anything with it. The thing is, learning the rules is good, but it doesn't automatically make you a good speaker. Like, imagine trying to learn to swim just by reading a book. You might know how it's supposed to work, but you're not going to float until you get in the water.
That's exactly the analogy they used. It really hit home for me. And then there's this idea that you have to feel ready before you start talking, which can keep you waiting forever. But what they're saying is, speaking isn't the result of being ready, it's the cause. You get ready by speaking.
So then the question is, if it's not just about studying more, what's the first step?
Okay, so step one, both these podcasts agreed on this. Speak now, perfect later. Basically, ditch the idea that you got to be a grammar whiz or know a million words before you even try to have a conversation. They say, start using what you do know, even if it's just a little bit.
The thing that stood out to me was how they stressed doing it now, not waiting till you're ready, but like right this second. Even the smallest things can make a difference.
Yeah, they were like, practice saying, hello, how are you? Out loud. Like, seriously, do it right now. Even that gets you into the habit of speaking, and it starts to feel less weird. And they were really big on not worrying about getting it perfect right away.
But what about making mistakes? I think that's what holds a lot of people back, right?
Well, they talked about that a lot. Both podcasts really emphasize this idea of reframing mistakes. Instead of seeing them as like failures, you should see them as opportunities to learn. It's actually a sign that you're pushing yourself and getting better. One of the hosts even told a story about how they used to stumble over words all the time, but that's what helped them become more fluent. It's like when you're learning to walk, you fall down a bunch, but that's how you get stronger.
Having someone actually say that, it makes you feel less alone. Mistakes are just part of the process.
Totally. And their advice was, start using English in easy situations, like ordering coffee or saying hi to your neighbor. And if you mess up, just laugh it off and keep going. The main point is, doing something, even if it's not perfect, is way better than waiting around to be perfect before you even start.
So, okay, we're starting to speak, but how do we actually make that a regular thing,
Right. So step two is make speaking a daily habit. And it's not about studying for hours and hours until you're exhausted. They were saying even short bursts of practice every day are super effective. It's like working out a muscle. You don't want to overdo it, just be consistent.
I like that it doesn't have to be this big, overwhelming thing. Just a little bit each day can actually make a difference.
Exactly. One of the podcasts suggested this really simple thing. Just narrate your day out loud in English. Like, I woke up, I made breakfast, I'm checking my email. Sounds kind of silly, but it gets you thinking in English and putting sentences together.
It's like you've got this inner voice that's starting to speak English, which is pretty cool.
And then they had this talk to yourself challenge where you spend 5 minutes every day just talking in English by yourself, in the mirror, in the shower, wherever you feel comfortable. They said it helps you build confidence because there's no pressure of someone listening.
Yeah, having that safe space to practice without feeling judged is really important, especially when you're starting out.
For sure. And the key thing here is speaking every day, even for a few minutes, is way more effective than just studying grammar or vocabulary every once in a while.
Yeah.
It's got to be part of your routine.
Okay, so we're talking to ourselves, which is a good start, but how do we go beyond that, like actually talking to other people?
All right, so step 3 is where it gets interesting. Steal real conversations. Now, don't worry, we're not saying go out and rob people of their chats. This is about listening to native English speakers, like in movies, podcasts, or even this deep dive, and picking up phrases and expressions that they use naturally.
It's like learning from the pros, picking up on those little things that make your English sound more authentic.
Right. So when you hear someone say something like, "That's awesome," or "You're kidding me," you can start using those phrases yourself. You're kind of absorbing their rhythm and their tone, which makes you sound less robotic and more like a real person.
It's like building up your collection of cool English phrases. The more you have, the more natural you sound.
Yeah. One of the hosts even talked about watching talk shows and repeating the things they heard, almost like a cheat code for better English. And their suggestion was to pick one new phrase today and try to use it 5 times. It helps you move from just listening to actually using the language actively.
So we're talking to ourselves, we're stealing phrases, but what about actually having conversations?
That's step 4. Find your people.
Hmm.
Talking to yourself is a good way to get started, but the real magic happens when you connect with other people and actually have conversations. It's like joining a club, but for English speakers.
The social part is so important, you know? It gives you motivation, helps you learn from others, and you don't feel so alone in the whole language learning thing.
Absolutely. They talked about all these different places where you can find people to practice with. Like there's Discord, Speaky, those language exchange apps like Tandem and HelloTalk, and even Facebook groups and Reddit forums, tons of online communities.
And it doesn't have to be some super fluent native speaker. Just connecting with other people who are learning, even if they're at the same level as you, can be super helpful.
Definitely. The point isn't to be perfect. It's to get comfortable talking and have fun. Even short conversations like 5 minutes a day can make a difference. The key is to be proactive and reach out to people. Don't just wait for them to find you.
Yeah, putting yourself out there can be a little scary, but it's so worth it. Okay, so beyond these 4 steps, beyond the mic, had this whole thing about mindset, which I think is really important.
Oh yeah, this is crucial. Action over fear. We talked about being afraid of making mistakes, and this builds on that. Basically, they said everyone starts somewhere, and the more you speak, the less scary it becomes. It's like jumping into a cold pool. The anticipation is way worse than the actual thing.
That makes sense. The more you do something, the less scary it gets.
No.
It's like facing your fears, but with English.
They're like, celebrate every word you speak, even if it feels small or imperfect. And they use that bike analogy again. You learn by doing, not by reading about it. So get out there and pedal, even if you wobble a bit.
I love that. It's about focusing on progress, not perfection.
Totally. And like professionals also spend a lot of time talking about getting over that fear of speaking. They said it's super normal to feel nervous or even embarrassed. Everyone goes through it. It's part of the journey.
It's validating to hear that, you know? It's like, okay, it's not just me being weird. Everyone feels this way.
Exactly. And then they drop this truth bomb. Even native speakers make mistakes sometimes. We tend to think they're perfect, but language is messy and everyone messes up.
That's good to remember. It takes the pressure off a little bit.
Right. They also said to focus on communication as the main goal, not perfect grammar. If you can get your point across and people understand you, that's what matters. The fancy stuff will come later.
Yeah, it's more about connecting with people than sounding like a textbook.
And they had this thought experiment, which is really cool. They said, think about how you react when someone who's learning your language makes a mistake. Do you judge them, or are you just happy they're trying? Most people are pretty understanding and supportive.
That's a good point. It puts things in perspective.
For sure. They kept saying mistakes are not the enemy. They're actually how you get better. And they suggested some easy ways to start speaking. Simple sentences, talking to yourself, practicing with a friend, even just talking to the mirror to get used to making the sounds.
Small steps, baby steps. It's all about building that confidence little by little.
And they mentioned shadowing again, where you listen to a native speaker and try to repeat exactly what they're saying. It helps you get the rhythm and the pronunciation down.
Like a vocal workout, but for English.
Okay, so going back to that idea of speaking from day one, talk like professionals, really push back against this idea that you need to know a lot before you can start talking. They're like, start now, even if you only know a few words.
Yeah, it's like throw yourself in the deep end and start swimming.
Right. They had some practical tips, too. We've already talked about self-talk and shadowing. They also said to keep your English simple at first. Focus on getting your message across clearly rather than trying to use fancy grammar.
Sometimes simple is better, especially when you're learning.
And they said to look for any chance you can to talk to real people, like online language exchange groups, finding a language partner, or even just striking up a conversation with someone in English, like in a tourist area.
It's all about finding those real-life opportunities to practice however you can.
And they ended that part with a challenge. Say something in English out loud today, even if it's just one word. It's about breaking that silence and making that first step.
I like that. It's simple, but it gets you going.
So we've talked about how to start speaking and how to deal with the fear, but how do you keep going, keep getting better? Both podcasts were really big on the power of daily conversations. They said even a little bit of practice every day is way better than cramming every once in a while. Like watering a plant, you got to do it regularly.
Consistency is key, just like with anything else you're trying to learn. Little and often is the way to go.
They said even 5 or 10 minutes a day can make a huge difference. And it doesn't have to be with a native speaker. Talking to yourself, practicing with another learner, it all counts.
That's good to know. It makes it feel more manageable, like something you can actually fit into your day.
And they talked about those language exchange apps again, which are awesome for finding people to practice with. Pandem, Hello Talk, even just finding people in Facebook groups. There are so many options out there.
The internet has made it so much easier to connect with people who want to learn languages, which is amazing.
And Talk Like Professionals had this great tip. If you're not ready to jump into a live conversation yet, start by sending voice messages to friends or language partners. It's less pressure, and you can re-record until you feel good about it.
That's a smart idea. It's like a stepping stone to having real conversations.
And they said to set small daily goals, like saying 5 new sentences in English or having a short conversation, just something to keep you motivated and on track.
Having those little goals can make a big difference in terms of staying consistent.
Now, finding people to practice with can be tricky, and Talk Like Professionals had a whole section on that.
Yeah, that's a real struggle for a lot of people.
They said to start with your existing network, friends, family, anyone who'll listen. Even if they don't speak English perfectly, it's good practice.
It's a safe space to get started, especially when you're still feeling a little shy.
And then, of course, there are all those online resources, language exchange apps, Facebook groups, Reddit, Discord. You just have to be proactive and reach out to people.
Don't be afraid to take the initiative.
Okay, so we didn't really get into specific conversation topics, but it's good to have some ideas in mind. Talk about things you're interested in, your hobbies, your favorite movies, what you did over the weekend. It makes the conversation flow more naturally.
It's easier to talk about things you actually care about.
Another thing they talked about was thinking in English, which is so important. A lot of learners translate everything in their heads before they speak, which slows you down and makes you sound less fluent.
Yeah, that translation step can be a real bottleneck.
They said to train your brain to think directly in English without translating. And they had some tips for that. Start with simple words. When you see something, think the English word for it, not the word in your native language.
It's like creating a shortcut in your brain.
And try describing your surroundings in English, even just to yourself. The sky is blue, there's a dog barking, that kind of thing.
It's like narrating your life in English.
And try using an English dictionary. Look up the meaning of a word using other English words, not your native language.
It forces you to stay within the English world, which is good for your brain.
And one of the best tips was to actually speak your thoughts out loud in English, even when you're alone. It gets you used to forming sentences naturally.
It's like a rehearsal, but for your brain.
They said it might feel weird at first, but it gets easier with practice.
Just like everything else with language learning.
And then they went back to the fear of making mistakes. But this time it was all about mindset. They said mistakes are not a bad thing. They're proof that you're learning and pushing yourself. No one is perfect, especially not when they're first starting out.
It's about shifting your perspective and seeing mistakes as opportunities.
Exactly. They said when you make a mistake, don't get discouraged. Just think, okay, I learned something new. That little change in thinking can make a big difference.
It's all about being kind to yourself and focusing on the progress you're making.
And if someone corrects you, be grateful, not embarrassed. It means they're helping you improve.
Feedback is a gift, even when it's hard to hear.
And the best way to get over that fear, You guessed it. Practice, practice, practice. The more you speak, the more confident you become, and the less those mistakes will bother you.
It's like anything else. The more you do it, the better you get.
Okay, so to wrap things up, the big takeaway from both podcasts is this. Stop obsessing over studying and start speaking English right now. Find people to talk to, even if it's just yourself at first. Train your brain to think in English. And most importantly, don't be afraid to make mistakes. They're your friends, not your enemies.
And the cool thing is, they gave us so many practical tips and strategies that we can start using today. It's not just theory, it's actionable advice.
Exactly. So here's your challenge, our awesome listener. Take action today. Find a language partner online. Try describing your day in English and promise yourself you'll speak at least a little bit of English every single day.
And think about which one of these tips really spoke to you, and try that one first. See how it feels, what you learned from it.
That's a great idea. And to get you started right now, as soon as this deep dive is over, say one sentence in English out loud. Just one sentence. It's a small step, but it's a step in the right direction. We believe in you, and we know you can become a more confident English speaker. Keep practicing, stay positive, and most importantly, have fun with it. This is just the beginning of your journey to fluency,
Onward and upward.
to a more fluent you.